Hello, and we're here today with photographer Lucy Williams from lucywilliamsphotography.co.uk, and today we're going to be talking about your LinkedIn photos. So thank you for joining me today, Lucy.
You're welcome, lovely to be here.
And the reason I actually approached Lucy about this is because Lucy did my photos last year, I think it was, beginning of last year. And they're photos that I've used for my website, for a dating app, for a CV. I've used them many times. So yeah, big advocate of Lucy's work. So so we're going to be talking about LinkedIn today, and one of the things that I find really interesting is that people say don't put your photo on your CV. Because people need to look at the qualifications and your background and all that sort of stuff without a photograph to sway you. But in reality, the first thing a recruiter or a HR person is going to do, I believe, is go and look at your LinkedIn profile, and hey presto, there you are with a photo. So a photo, in my opinion, is extremely important. What's your views on that, Lucy?
Yeah, I am. Excuse me. I think that too, totally. Because what I think is that nowadays people are really visually literate, even though they don't realise they are. And I think it's natural for all of us to connect visually. So mainly people are on social media. They're used to looking at photos and they're used to researching and checking out photos. So it's totally natural to go to LinkedIn and do that, which is why your photo really needs to stand out. I think it's something to do with there's a lot of people out there. There's probably a lot of people applying for exactly the same job as you're applying for, and somehow you have to differentiate. You might have like lots of different skills. I mean, what I mean is everybody might have very similar skills. So when people look at your photo, they need to know that you're also someone they can work with. So they need to look at your photo and immediately get that you're competent, that you would fit the role, that you're just going to be a nice member of the team.
Yeah. And before I actually started this recording, you were talking about the psychology of your photos on LinkedIn, and you mentioned something which I found fascinating about how you should actually be posing in your photo.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. It's very, very, very subtle, but there's a slight difference between if you're posing this way round, with your shoulders slightly turned to your, I'm trying to think which way around.
Yeah.
You can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, and you're smiling at the camera, then all of your name and bits and pieces about you are here. So very visually, people can look up to your photo, look down to your details, look across. I think there's something across on LinkedIn there. So it's a very pleasing aesthetically. So it makes your profile more accessible, psychology, with like subtly rather. So, but if you're this way, you're kind of, you've got your back to your stuff. So it's a little bit more jarring to look at. So it may only be a tiny little difference, but it's those tiny little differences that make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. So, and what we're going to do today, which is a little bit different, is that we're going to flip between Lucy and myself and screens, because obviously you want to see some of the photos that Lucy's done, and why she did it the way that she did, and what the lessons that you can use for LinkedIn. So before we do that, actually, I wanted to clear up about the things that you shouldn't do on LinkedIn. So obviously, looking away from your profile is a no-no. Is there anything else that you shouldn't be doing in your LinkedIn photo?
Don't do selfies. I think there's something about a selfie where, I mean, hopefully nobody's really doing this, but even if it's a nice picture, the way you've held the phone and everything, you're in a weird sort of position. So interestingly, another psychology thing, your camera's slightly higher than you are usually if you're doing a selfie, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but often women are photographed from slightly higher. It is quite flattering. Your eyes are a little bit more open. But but men are photographed from slightly lower traditionally, and it makes them look more competent, more powerful. So if you start looking around at photos of women and men, it's very interesting to see. It's not tons, it's just a little subtle difference. So think about where the camera is, and with a selfie it's above, so although you look more approachable, you might not. I was reading about some statistics that statistically you look more friendly and likable, but statistically you also look less competent and less intelligent.
Yeah, less gravitas.
Yeah, exactly. So if I was doing photos, I'd always do them from fairly face on. Okay, so other no-nos, make sure, I often see LinkedIn photos. In preparation for this, I was looking through LinkedIn, you know, they give you all the examples of people you could be in touch with. So many people had a bright background and their face was darker. So visually, when you're going through stuff, I mean, it's a bit like me. I'm a really bad example of a LinkedIn photo right now because my background is lighter than my face is. So if you squint through your eyes, you will notice that the background stands out more than my face. So on LinkedIn, let me just move my light and show you the difference. Bad lighting. But if I did something like this, it's not great lighting, but you can see immediately that
your face does stand out. Yeah.
So what I would say on LinkedIn is just be aware of that and look at your photographs and make sure that you stand out more than what's happening in the background. Another no-no is make sure your backgrounds aren't cluttered. So again, it's about distraction. The best LinkedIn photographs are very simple, I think. It's just you. And there isn't really much in the background. It's either out of focus or it's, you know, nothing distinguishes itself in the background particularly. And then you stand out again. And I suppose the other thing that I was noticing is I think it's really important to have most of you take up the frame. So I know a lot of people are a little bit self-conscious and they don't really like to be close up. But you have to remember that when people are looking on LinkedIn, the photo isn't for you, it's for the person meeting you. And that person isn't really looking at kind of whether you're pretty or not, handsome or not. Do you know what I mean? They're looking to see whether they can get on with you, whether you'd fit into the team. You know, psychologically, they're making all those connections. So it's really important that they're, you know, if you met in real life, you'd be face to face. They wouldn't be looking at a wide off, you know, when they're having a conversation with you, you wouldn't be miles away. So again, much better like me and you talking like this. This is about the right size in your LinkedIn profile rather than sort of like this. Trying to think if there's any more things I can tell you about that.
I suppose the important thing is that you have one.
Yeah,
a lot of people, well, not a lot, but there are people who don't have one, and that's just, you know, I always move on from those.
I think it, you know, it's unfortunate. I mean, I kind of understand people don't always like their image on stuff, but you are also competing against a bunch of people that don't mind having their images up. So you have to make sure you're presenting your best self. So that includes your photo, it includes what you've written on your profile, but your photo is the first thing people see. So instantly they've made a lot of judgments, because we do as humans, we're used to reading visually. So you make a lot of judgments straight away about that person. And then I don't mean nasty judgments. It could just be simple as, oh, they look intelligent. Oh, they look lovely. They look like so-and-so in that department. They'd really fit in. Or, so it's making connections really. So it's really important to have your photo.
And as an employer, prospective employer, if I see somebody hasn't got a photo up there, then, you know, I think, well, if they're a bit wary, then how are they going to represent the business? Yeah,
exactly. It does show that you've got a confidence and you're proud of who you are and stuff. I think the other no-no is actually that I don't know whether people massively do this on LinkedIn, but I also shoot dating portraits, and often people turn up in very casual clothes and they say, well, this is me. And that's fine, but it's a bit like, I mean, hopefully not many people are doing this on LinkedIn, but you should really be dressing how you would dress to A, be in your job, B, meet a prospective employer, and C, or even to be like the job you want to be promoted into. So you need to be mindful of your audience. The photo, as I said before, it's not for you, it's for your audience.
Yeah.
So who are they looking for, and what would that person be dressed like?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way you compare, you know, photos from LinkedIn photos from dating photos, because there's a lot of parallels there, aren't there?
I totally think it is. It's the ultimate in sort of personal branding, if you know what I mean. Like, both ways, you're looking to put your best self across in a digital way. And as we know, digital isn't, lots of people say to me for dating, for example, digital, I hate it. I'd much prefer to be doing real life stuff. But the reality is, nowadays, there are so many people out there that when we were all 20, maybe we used to go for that little job with, you know, not many other people going for it. But nowadays, lots and lots of people might be going for your job. And the first place employers look is online. And the same with dating. The first place people look is online. So you can either sort of fight it and be resistant to that, or just... I don't know, I was going to say get with the program, but what I mean is play the game. It's a bit of a game. I don't mean a horrible game. I just mean it's like anything, you know, you prepare for it. If you were skydiving, you wouldn't turn up in your bikini. You'd have the proper gear on. You'd have done some training first. You put your best foot forward for whatever thing you're going for, whether it's dating, business. So yeah, they're very similar, dating and business. And they're both fun if you kind of stop being resistant to it, which I know I have been in the past, but and then just, you know, go fully into it. You can make a brilliant profile for yourself on LinkedIn, same on dating, and really be connectable.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about being approachable, connectable, people saying, oh, I'd quite like to meet them. I'd quite like to have them in my network. So Lucy, do you want to share some photos and show us some of your work and what you think works for LinkedIn?
Let's have a look. So
lovely. Yeah.
So this is quite a corporate shot. So it was a big insurance firm, and I went in and photographed a number of their staff members, but they wanted to have informal formal. So nowadays there's a real I think there's a real trend to have quite informal formal pictures. So years ago, LinkedIn was against a white background, nothing else, like a studio shot really. Whereas nowadays there are these much more natural looking photos. So even in an office environment, I would say this photo looks much more natural than a studio shot. What I like about this photo in particular is the background was a very white office. He was wearing white. So
it's very, very... Yeah, like very strong.
Yeah, so in for them, all of their staff team were photographed in this location, which actually was just a corridor with nice lights. So you can see the light on his face is very flattering. You can see who he is. There's no shadows. Actually, how he's looking at the camera is quite good. He's not smiling full on, but he's slightly smiling and slightly smiling eyes. So it's more personable than if he was very serious.
And is this one from down below as well, or straight on?
Slightly below, slightly below. So I feel like he's got gravitas. He looks like he knows what he's doing, but he also looks approachable. And also, when you're taking your photos, make sure that there's enough space around the outside that you can crop to a circle, because LinkedIn is circular. So, whoops. So there you go.
Yeah.
So crop to circle. So as I was saying before, I can't say it's like, so with psychology, if you look at how he's standing, he is slightly turned in towards his LinkedIn profile. So again, it'd be very pleasing with his name, looking up to his picture. It works really well.
I'm talking about a smile. Is that about the right sort of smile?
I think
isn't there?
Yeah, I think it depends what somebody is comfortable with. Like, some people are, I would always say to err on the side of smiley rather than serious, because I think when people look at your photos, they are looking for approachability. So they've seen all your skills on your CV, they've seen what you can do. So when they see your photo, they want to know that they can work with you. And if you're very serious, some people look great when they're very serious, but most people look better when they're smiling a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there are, sometimes you can smile too much. But it also, again, it depends on the kind of job you're going for. So if you were, so for example, if you were I don't know, trying to think of a good job, like a coach or something like that, you might have a slightly more magazine-y style image where you're looking away from the camera or you're smiling to yourself, and that could work really nicely for what you do. But in most instances, connection with the camera, so you can see he's looking directly down the lens, which when the audience is the other side, it feels like he's looking at them. And slightly smiling is, as I said, quite friendly. He wasn't particularly very, very smiley person, so let me see, I'll find someone else. You can pause here, right? Let's have a look. So this is a good example of someone who I've got smiling and non-smiling. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting because I don't think this photo, for example, it's not that this photo doesn't work. It does work. I think he's smiling with his eyes. So if you ever heard the phrase schmizing, he's doing that in this photograph because he doesn't look serious. So I would say this photograph is fine. But I don't know, to me, there's something more engaging about this photograph.
I think you feel a little bit more personality.
Yeah. Yeah, so interesting, not really any different in how he's standing or anything, but just slightly more connected, I'd say. Oh, so these these are all from the same set of photographs. So again, facing the camera, slightly more serious, smiling with her eyes still. But this one, I feel like she looks more competent, looks more, she still looks very personable. There's a smile there. So I if I was going to choose a picture for LinkedIn, I would choose the one on the right. Yeah,
me too. Yeah.
Interesting
pose. You don't see women do that pose very often, but it looks really good, doesn't it?
It's really good. Yeah, I quite often try to do a bit of a hands crossed. It doesn't always work, but and people say, but isn't it kind of bad to have your arms crossed, quite blocking? But actually, with a loose arm cross, it can look very much like I think of it as the Dragon's Den pose. So if you look at Dragon's Den, most of them have that pose. So I think it is quite a strong pose, but not necessarily blocking. I don't think. I think it's still approachable.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, be mindful of the fact that when you're cropping for LinkedIn, you're circular. So you have, with this one, you don't have enough space around it to be able to get your arms in. So if she was going to use this for LinkedIn, it would be better to take the photo from slightly further away so that when you crop in, you can use from your waist up picture. Sorry, right, that's the end. So this is an interior designer called Amanda Nielsen. She needed some photographs for her business, but also this property was going to be featured in a magazine. So she needed some shots of her because they wanted to see the property owner and designer. So I think, although I said it's better to keep your background simple, a bit indistinguishable, this, for her, she's an interior designer, so keeping some of her background in it adds to what she's doing. So if in a LinkedIn picture, you can see there's some elements of a background in there. So if people have read the magazine article, they'll make some links to her. Again, fairly simple. There's not too many colours going on. She happens to be wearing white again. Happens that this unit behind her was white, but she stands out, I think, against the background, even though there's more going on in it.
And again, the way she's posing looks as though she's just about to tell you a secret, doesn't she?
Yeah, just about to say something. Yeah, and this photo is slightly above, but it's also, because she's got her head lifted, she also is quite face on. So I don't feel like it's a looking down photograph.
Yeah.
She, again, looks like, if you were having her to design your house, you know that she's going to do a great job. You could just from the photo, you know that she would listen to what you, well, this is my opinion. I feel like, what do you think, Paula, actually, if you saw this photo and were thinking of an interior designer?
Well, that's quite interesting. I'm thinking in the negative, if I saw a photo of an interior designer and there wasn't something nice behind them, I would probably wouldn't even notice it, but subconsciously it would be there. But
Yeah.
having somebody with, I would presume this is her work behind her, sort of just fits that overall branding, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it very much fits her business, and obviously she is different from somebody who is applying for a job in a particular firm, but you know, she runs her own business, so you have slightly more creative freedom, I think, when you're running your own business.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's an interesting thing, if you're applying for jobs at particular firms, maybe it's a good thing to think about how that firm presents itself and the style of the imagery it already has, and fitting yourself into that. So immediately they're making that link. Yeah. You want to work for a particular employer. Yeah. Oh, hold on, sorry. Oh, hello.
Me.
Yeah, so this is, you don't mind me talking about you, Paula, do you?
No, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting as well, because so this image, if you notice, shot slightly from above. And then this image is slightly from below. And interestingly, for me, this image is more personable. It's softer. I mean, the lighting, everything is softer, but this image, there's more of a gravitas to it. So they're very subtly different. But what I also really like about both images is there's a lovely color thing going on. So the green and gray in this image, and then obviously your reds in this image. So on LinkedIn, I think this one would be a really good image because the red really stands out. At the time, it was working very well with your branding, wasn't it? Because with Scarlet Thinking.
Well, yeah, still am Scarlet Thinking.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
Yeah.
So it's got that scarlet red going on. Yeah, and then this one is softer. So it's not to say one is a better LinkedIn image than the other, but it's good to notice the difference. So often it can be good to have a few different photographs of yourself that you can change over, because each one will have a different feel. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about colour and black and white. I'm a massive fan of colour, just because I think it's really interesting, and I love it when colours work very well together. So again, she's got colour in the background of her image. Yeah. Excuse me, but it's very simple. It's mainly cream, black and yellow. And it's out of focus, so it's not taken over, Yeah, and if you remember, you'd be cropping down to a circle. You'd be able to keep some of the colour, but there wouldn't be quite so much because you wouldn't be taking the whole image. But I've also seen some really successful black and white images that look very stylish and very timeless. So, which I think that does. But I think the reason it works very well is because the background is very out of focus and her face is still very well lit. So that's the thing you see first. So it's very unusual to use a black and white, but I have seen, again, some designers use black and white, and it it may suit. I would say on the whole, use colour, but depending on the job you're applying for, it may suit to have a black and white one. Okay. And again, very
remember you got me to do that against the wall.
Yeah, I like it. I think a lot of times a lot of people don't know how to stand in their photos or what to do with their arms. So doing a simple leaning against the wall is a way for people to feel a little bit more comfortable in their pose. So again, very natural image. So much more smiley in this one.
Mm.
I guess it would depend on which job you were going for, right? Like,
Yeah.
I like both of them. Like in this one, she's smiling with her eyes quite a lot. So I still feel like she has that approachability.
Yeah.
And then
Probably more in the colour one than the black and white, I would say.
yeah, I think that you're right. Yeah. And this one, smiling with your teeth. So if you were going to smile with your teeth, which a lot of people like to do, then don't go too much.
What
So
some grommet?
yeah, yeah. So I have seen some pictures, and I was reading some research yesterday about it tips you over. So this one, she still looks competent, able, approachable, but if you tip over into too smiley, which it's very easy to do if you like laughing and stuff like that, depending on the job you're going for, if you're too smiley, it can lead to people not taking you seriously.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just going to whiz through these because they're not normal pictures that I would take. So
that's a nice one.
Yeah, so another interior designer, Andrea, she wanted some shots for her website. So this isn't necessarily for LinkedIn, but
no, it's too big, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought it was a good shot to show because she's using this for her website, but you could easily, this photo is very high resolution. So if you're working with a professional photographer, especially, they should deliver high resolution images as part of their package, or you'd be able to buy high resolution images, which means that you can use them sort of throughout. If you need stuff for print, which often you might need in business for printed brochures, if you do speaking, you know, those sort of things. But equally, you could crop into this image and have it as a circle as well, and you'd crop out most of the stuff on the desk, but you'd keep the sort of greenery and the link to her background there. Just going to whiz past that. Yeah. So having a bright color, wearing a bright color can be really engaging. It can really catch people's eye when they're looking through LinkedIn profiles. So this is Lisa. She, the orange on her is amazing. But again, crop down, you've just got that hint of orange there. But what I really like about this is that, again, her connection is with her eyes. So
yes, really strong in this one, isn't it?
Yeah, how important it is to make that connection with the camera. So often people ask, you know, can I do a selfie? Can I take the photos myself? It's always better, whether you use a professional photographer, to have someone else do your photos, someone that you can be yourself with, because because it's very hard to get this kind of look if you're doing it yourself, even in a selfie. Yeah, so that connection is just lovely. I feel like I want to work with her.
And again, that's another pose, isn't it? The sort of...
Yeah, so when I'm working in particular, I don't particularly ask people to do poses. So I'd rather people look like themselves. So she very naturally went into, I think she was sitting at a table, so she very naturally went into that pose. But at the same time, I did a bunch of other stuff, so she could then choose the one that suited her best for the reason she wanted to use it, because a lot of the people I work with use stuff across websites and on LinkedIn, their profiles. And again, nice, smiley, relaxed, connected with the camera. I really love this one. I think smiling, looking at them all actually together, it's like smiling with your eyes, is a real winner, because I think there's something, like many people might not have heard of it. If you have seen Tyra Banks, you would have heard of it. But schmeizing, there's something about when you smile, when you concentrate on smiling with your eyes, your mouth just does its own thing. And if you concentrate on smiling with your mouth, it can sometimes look awkward, because naturally you don't concentrate on smiling, you just do it very organically. So obviously on a photo shoot, some people are more relaxed than others, and if you are someone that can't relax into a photo shoot very quickly or easily, then concentrate on smiling with your eyes, and your mouth will automatically, like you can see her mouth, it's not a full smile, but she's definitely got a smile on her lips there. Let's have a look. So this actually is a photograph I took of Katrina for her dating profile, but I just wanted to show you because, again, really lovely colours, very simple, nothing distracting particularly in terms of colour-wise, but she's looking away from camera, which I think can work. On LinkedIn, I think it can work depending on the type of job you're looking for. Most of the time, I would say look at the camera. Maybe if you were doing life coaching or something a little bit more soft-skilled, running your own business, then maybe looking away. It's got a very magazine quality to it.
Yes, it has. Yeah, in that in one of the lifestyle industries. Yeah.
Yeah, so something lifestyle-y. Yeah, you're right. That this image could work very well, and also your target audience, who the photo is for, are very used to looking at very similar images to this, I would say. Whereas if you're looking for a more corporate job or a more big business, yeah, definitely on the corporate side, you're probably going to need to connect more with the camera.
Yeah.
Joe, so so this is a really lovely image, I think, for cropping circular. She's got the room around her to crop circular. She's got that connection with the camera again, a slight smile. She looks approachable. She looks competent. I think this is a really successful LinkedIn image. Again, with the blue and it's very simple colours. I think that would stand out as on a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, definitely.
And a more close-up version. I mean, not of the same photo, more close-up version of her. But again, lovely smile. I mean, it's slightly different, but equally approachable, and you feel like you'd want to work with those people, that person. Right, I'm just going to whiz through some, Paula, that we might not show. They're dating ones, so I didn't know.
So that's the arms folded is a very, it's a much tighter fold, isn't it, that he's doing?
Yes. Yeah, I really like it. I honestly think if you do it right and you're not clenching yourself in and it's quite a relaxed arms fold, I feel like it has got, there's something very solid and strong about it. Yeah, and I don't think it's an off-putting, blocking pose. I mean, a lot of people would think it was, but I don't think it's got that about it. This is interesting as well, because a lot of people ask what they should wear. And I mean, if you're doing a professional shoot, you'd have the chance to take in lots of different outfits. I'd say, and then you can try them all out and choose the ones that suit you best. So he was going, at the time, this is Nick, he was going for some different jobs. So he works quite high up in the medical industry, and he wanted this image for some of the firms he was applying for. And then he also was looking at kind of some more innovative, like newer research kind of firms. So he wanted this picture, which has a more informal feel. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a suit or having a much more casual, I mean, still smart, but smart casual sort of image, I suppose. It really depends on who your target audience is. And you might find that you're applying for, at one point, certain jobs, and then a little bit later, slightly different jobs. So it's worth changing up your profile picture if that's the case. Again, both connected with the camera. He's looking directly at you. Slightly more smiley in this one, actually, which is quite good because he's wearing a slightly more formal outfit. So I think it's important, the more formal you go, to be a tiny bit more smiley, so that you're more approachable and personable. But very similar pictures. With both of these, I wouldn't say they are amazing for LinkedIn, just because you can see there's not a lot of room to, I mean, they'd be fine, but you'd have quite a tight crop on your face.
Yeah, it'd be very close up, wouldn't it, with the circle? Yeah.
Which I read some statistics that at least 60% of the circle on LinkedIn should be your face. So if you cropped fairly wide. Obviously it'd be a lot of white behind him and the top of his suit, but you probably wouldn't see his arms there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and similar there. Oh, there's your wider version. So you could definitely crop in circular on this version and just create a similar image as this one, but just in a circle.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to skip forward a few. Yeah, so this is Crumblicious Cakes, Jessica from Crumblicious Cakes. So she's I mean, what do you get from this picture, Paula?
Chef. I mean, yeah, food, clean.
Yes, that's good, right? So you want to know she actually runs her business from home. So it's really important that for her that it comes across as a clean professional space that she's working in. She also wanted it to have a bit of a lifestyle feel because she's very personable. Her business is she has a lot of repeat business, a lot of clients who do stuff for very personal things like birthdays, anniversaries, that sort of stuff. So she really wanted the flowers in the background. So that's quite bright. It's a little bit distracting in the background, but also fits very well with her business. And then cropped in, you still get the impression that she's wearing an apron, and it keeps some of the background, but it's her face that stands out a lot. And again, I feel like it's slightly above actually, but not too above that she doesn't have that gravitas. I think she's a very personable lifestyle business, so it has that feel. Oh, there's our lady. So this is an interesting look at how cropped in you can be. So this is very cropped in, which does work, but I feel like you need slightly more of your body. It's a bit too head only. So something like that,
I think that's
works slightly better. I mean, it's not particularly that you need to see what someone's wearing, but I just think it's something to do with the rule of thirds, I think. So if you look at this picture, so composition is really important if you're taking your own pictures, but her eyes are on the top third. If you imagine 3 lines cutting through this equally on a horizontal, then her eyes are on the top third. And that's very visually attractive to people. So it looks more attractive. That image is more visually pleasing. This image is more visually pleasing than this. And then that's with a lot more body in it, which I think this image is perfectly fine as well, but I think this is the one I choose for LinkedIn. So I was just going to show you Caroline as well, because these are really good examples of very wide images that you could crop into. Quite simple in the background, again, simple colours. She stands out because she's so bold. Her patterns on her dress. Interestingly, with patterns, I would say if you are someone who likes to wear patterns, make sure the patterns are kind of bolder, more simple patterns than something that can be too much. Imagine your picture in a circle, and is that pattern going to distract from your face?
You want people just to see the pattern, do you?
Yeah. So this is quite a good image. She is already close up. Her face is lovely and in focus. She's got a great smile, obviously, so she's very personable. There's something about her pose. You feel like she's very approachable. And this is a good image to crop into. This one, again, I love this image, but in terms of a LinkedIn image, probably wouldn't be as successful because it's a bit more distracting around the edges here. With stuff happening in the background. Her face isn't quite as well lit, so her face really stands out in this picture, and I like this picture as a whole, but as a LinkedIn image wouldn't probably work as well. And again, the looking down. So really interestingly, if you were doing lifestyle type work, this could work really well. It's very simple. Again, you've got simple background. She's looking down, you can tell she's smiling, but she isn't connecting with the camera, and that works really well in certain circumstances, but I would say for most circumstances, this is probably a much better LinkedIn image.
Yeah.
Let's switch through. I don't know if you've heard of the word catchlights. So
No.
you can see in his eyes here.
Yeah.
Reflections. Basically, if you've got something quite bright behind the camera, your face then looks brighter, but also you get these like little catchlights in your eyes. So here it's we were underneath a bridge. It was an outdoor shoot. We were underneath a bridge, and very, very bright outside the bridge. So this is what's reflected in his eyes, but it's great because it means that I love it's called catchlight, because they have caught the light, instantly engaging, because you feel like you see into his soul a bit.
yeah, there's something happening, isn't there? It's a picture that's alive.
Yes, exactly. And similar here. Yeah, again, very simple colors. So it doesn't have to be totally white background every time. This is this is obviously a lot of blues and greens going on, and I mean, this sort of thing, wearing colors, it works really well to think about the outfit you're going to wear for your shoot. It needs to be a color that suits you, so something that you're your favorite in, something that stands out on LinkedIn. Like, I think if this was on LinkedIn, it would stand out because her face again is bright, the rest of it is blues and greens, but the colors all work really well together. Jessica, yeah, I think that's the beginning of all of them. So I think that's all the photos I've got.
The goodies.
Now I can send you some more if you'd like to see, but let me just stop sharing.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing nowadays, I think, that things don't have to be stuffy. Especially, I think it's really interesting, probably similar to dating photography, that a lot of people maybe have been in their job for a really long time, and then suddenly, I don't know, I'm imagining that, well, current climate, there's people that have been made redundant. They suddenly have to think about their LinkedIn profile, which, 10 years ago wasn't something that you even had to, did it even exist? I don't know. So, and nowadays it's sort of like all of a sudden everything's online and you have to think about all of these things. So, it's a whole new world to kind of go into, but I think it can be fun.
I know from my own experience, when I've had good photos that I can use for LinkedIn or other social media profiles, or sometimes people say, oh, can you send a photograph over? Actually just going to meet somebody, and you don't know what they look like. It is there is something about it helps build your confidence if you've got good photos that are out there.
Yeah, I definitely think that, and I think nowadays a lot more people are being asked to show up digitally as part of their job. So they might do webinars, especially I think a lot of businesses will still be on Zoom for a while, or on whatever digital program you use, doing seminars and stuff like that. So you may well be asked to talk. Like, even on Zoom, you need a good picture before your video starts. So you'd use maybe the same one as your LinkedIn, so people make that connection. Again, you could use it. So I often wear a black and white striped top.
Yes.
Well, because in my profile picture, I've got a black and white striped top. So when I turn up to meet people for shoots, often I do outdoor location. So people instantly recognize me as me because they're used to the black and white top.
Yeah. So that brings up an interesting point. I mean, although we've been talking about using your photo for LinkedIn, and that could be, it might be that you're a small business owner, or it might be that you're actually using LinkedIn to find a job. But for those of us that are trying to raise their profile for their businesses through social media and so on, is it a good idea to use the same photo or a version of the same photo everywhere?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely, if you're building up who you are, then I think that connection throughout all of the social media you're using is really important. Yeah, just trying to think when it might be different, but I mean, pretty much I've got the same profile on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on what else am I on Instagram. And even though I used to have my logo, because I run my own business, but actually I changed that because although my logo is important, I want people to connect with me.
Yeah, yeah. And your business is your name, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I mean, as a photographer, I think, when people hate having the majority of people hate having their photo taken. So when I turn up, in my photo on LinkedIn or wherever, I want to look approachable, and that like somebody could work with me and that they wouldn't feel intimidated by me. And then when I turn up, I want them to see that in me and recognize it from my photo. So it's really important for me to have something like that, that shows that I'm personable. But I think that's the same across the board. I mean, generally people want to know that they can work with you. They want to know that you're competent. They want to know that you're good at your job and that you've got all the skills. But actually, I think the most important thing is knowing whether you fit in.
Yeah,
you so look true. Like the kind of person that would fit in and get on with the team and bring something to the team in who you are.
Yeah. From a psychological point of view, it's about joining the tribe, isn't it? Whether that tribe is a, funky digital marketing company or an old school, wealth fund management, you've got to look as though you belong.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, interestingly, with, say, an old school firm, maybe when you look on their website, their photos might be very old school as well. But a lot of those firms are now really updating stuff and having maybe still in that genre of kind of studio backdrop person. But I think they're updating and making them slightly more approachable, because I think everybody realizes whether you're looking for a job or whether you've already, your business is up and running. I think people realize that people want to work with people, and it's not the same as just, there's so much competition out there now. Like, how do you pick someone? You pick them from looking like you'd want to work with them, I think.
That's one of the ways that you do. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of times about, if you're doing it yourself or using a professional photographer. Do you want to sort of just go through the differences?
Yeah, so obviously I said earlier, selfies are no-no. I think even if you've got a good selfie, there's something psychological about people thinking you're not taking it seriously if you've done a selfie. So I think make sure your photographs are good quality, whether you get a friend to do it or whether you've got a photographer to do it, because people will see that you're taking your job search, your career seriously. I think if you're doing, you need to get a tripod. You need to put your camera or your phone on a tripod. You need to use a self timer so that you can set it and go back in position. And then some of the things I was talking about, choose a simple background. It could be a white background like this, it could be outdoors, but make sure the background in the photo looks out of focus or very simple, so it's not distracting from you. And then if you're doing it at home, you can notice in the daytime where the light is good in your house. So you don't want to have really, really bright light on you, because it's not necessarily that flattering. So looking at your photo on here, Paula, you're in quite flattering lighting where you are. So are you in window light?
No, artificial lights.
Well, artificial light is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, set it up. So you've probably got that artificial light slightly above you. I can see from the shadow.
Yeah, slightly above, that direction. Yeah,
so it's more natural. If it's the light's slightly above, it's a bit more where sun would be coming from. Like my light, very bad lighting, because it's coming from like there. The difference would be.
Yeah.
You see, that's already better than. So try and think about the lighting if you can. You don't need artificial lights. You could use daylight, but just to make sure, watch your room through the day and look when the light's nicest and most flattering, soft light. And then do it on a self timer. If you're getting a friend to do it, have them be like the photographer. Look to try and compose it with rule of thirds, to think about the background, make sure there's nothing distracting in the background. to hold the camera steady, to try and take lots of different shots of you so that you've got a lot to choose from, but also when we were talking about that close-up sort of wider shot, just to give you room. Some pictures will work better as LinkedIn profile pictures. What else did I write about it? Yeah, just keeping an eye on all of those: light, composition, framing, focus, how you're posing. And one of the things you can do to help yourself in your pictures is think about, have you got any loose ends? Are all your buttons in place? Are you going to put on a bit of makeup? It really helps to put on a bit of face powder or a bit of foundation, whether you're a man or a woman. It helps stop a bit of shine, it evens out your skin tone. If you're going to do things like shave before your photograph, make sure you do it enough in advance so that you're not red, a bit pink. If you're going to get your hair cut, you'll know when your hair looks at its best. Like when I have my hair cut, often it looks a bit too much day one, but day two it sort of falls into place a bit better.
So I have that when I wash my hair. It always looks better day two.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm very similar to you. So if you know that your hair's a bit frizzy, get some hairspray and just work with that, because that can just, wish I hadn't done that. But that can really, really help. Like especially on a bright day, that frizziness can show up as a bit of a halo. So so just do all of those things. Even if you're getting a friend to do your shots for you, just try and think of it like a professional shoot and prepare all of those things that you'd need to prepare.
And time, I would say, have the time to do it. I know from working with you, it just felt as though we had, obviously didn't, but it felt as though we had all the time in the world and it was relaxed and we weren't rushing things.
Yeah, and bring different outfits. If you're going to do a shoot, whether it's with a professional or with a friend, try to make the most of that opportunity. So you had a lot of different you thought through your outfits and the colours that you wanted to bring, and that worked really, really well, because then you can work quite quickly. I mean, these are all things that if I was doing a shoot with somebody, I'd ask them to think about and prepare ready for their shoot. And then on the day, you can... you're more relaxed because you're not thinking, oh no, where are my things and where am I? Oh damn, I wish I don't know, trim my nose hair, for example, or whatever it is. Or sometimes I have worked with people who they bring their suit, for example, their shirt is in a bag and they get it out and it's very, very creased, which if I'm working from a studio setting is fine because we can have an iron. But if we're on location, you can't do anything about that, and it either then becomes a big Photoshop job. So what I'd say is think through how you're going to wear stuff. If you've got something that creases, wear it for your first shot, and then the things that are less creasy, wear those for further shots. I know from my experience as well, lipstick can actually change an outfit. Even just some plain colour, changing from like pink to a scarlet lipstick can change something. Yeah, you were really good at that. That was, it totally can. And also I think a lot of people sometimes, if you don't wear much makeup, you can feel like you don't want any makeup on your shoot. And you don't have to have it, but makeup on camera always seems less than it does in real life. So even if you put a little bit of makeup on, it can make quite a big difference. Even if you're generally quite natural, you don't really wear much makeup. Yeah. I suppose the other thing, because I mentioned, making sure you put enough time aside to do it. This isn't something you want to like, oh, can you just snap and you get me against the wall, is it? It's something where you obviously want to put thought into. The other thing is if you're outside, there are going to be people, passers-by, people might feel a little bit, vulnerable or whatever. Any tips on that? Getting on with it. Excuse me. Obviously think about, you might want to scope out a location first about where you'd like to be. Nowadays, in current climates, places are often a lot quieter than they would have been, which is great. But also you can find a bit of a quiet spot, and often people don't notice you doing what you think they'd be looking at you, but they're not really. They might have a quick glance to see what you're up to, but I think it really depends on who you are. If you're someone who's very distracted or by other people, or very self-conscious by other people being around, then play to your best strengths and be somewhere where there's not many other people around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hardest done in places, I think, like London, where a lot of places are very, very busy, but there's always, you know, some quiet streets or more quiet areas that you can go to. So sometimes
just get up early.
Or get up early, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think one of my favourite shots that you showed me was the one of Caroline sat outside that cafe.
Yes.
So you must have obviously done that quite early.
Well, the thing was, it was a rubbish day. It was really cold. So Caroline did brilliantly because so on a cold day, this is a good example, she had a big coat. And then I asked her to take it off for shots. And then in between shots, she put her coat back on again. Because you have to think, if you're too hot, or like often clients will say to me, oh no, I'm fine, just carry on with it. But actually, if you're too hot or too cold, if you're cold, you clench. If you're too hot, you sort of, it's like a can't be botheredness that
or you start shining.
So I think you know, think through those things. If it's a hot day, find some shade, have a bottle of water, take plenty of breaks, all of the things you do naturally, and you don't have to power on. It's better to be relaxed and create some good quality images with some more gaps in between than to power on and just feel like you've got to get through it. But have a quick scout round for a good location or a couple of good locations close by, so you don't have to walk very far. Sometimes I have had shoots where people have wanted to go to quite a few different locations, but then you have to carry all your stuff and maybe go on the tube and travel half an hour, and it all adds into the time, and actually it takes quite a lot of energy to have your photo shoot. So I think it's important to sort of be close by so you can do stuff whilst you're still high energy. No, I agree. I remember when we did our shoot, you actually found a little location, didn't you, in a police garden, and knocked on the door and asked if you could use that. That's it, isn't it? Just sometimes it doesn't have to be like a fantastic vista. Like, it could be somewhere, just a little corner that just has enough interest and nothing distracting that works really well. So it doesn't have to be kind of amazing. I think sometimes people think that you need quite amazing backdrops, but actually it doesn't. I mean, definitely for LinkedIn, you just need to make sure the backdrop is interesting, non-distracting, you know, nice and neutral. But it does, I think the backdrop is worth thinking about. I remember working with one of my clients, and you did a photo shoot with her. We did it in Regent's Park, in the Japanese gardens there, just at the time when the blossom was out, and it was lovely, wasn't it? Yeah, it was perfect for her, wasn't it? Because she wanted something less formal and colourful, I think. Yeah, she was going for a complete change of image from something very formal, very corporate. She wanted something much softer and a little bit playful. So something like that can work really well. Be aware, I suppose, that there are some locations in London where if you start taking photos, especially with a professional camera, they might move you on. So always have a bit of a backup plan if you're in a sort of Royal Park or like around the GLA, for example. That's all looks public, but it's actually quite private. So just have a bit of a backup plan for a few different locations close by. And then if you do get, hopefully it won't happen, but if you do get moved on, you've got somewhere else to work then. But thinking about, you know, your client you were talking about, that's again, target audience. If your target audience is, like, she was changing her target audience to be more connectable, I guess, and more lifestyle in how she was doing stuff. So she changed how her images were. If you're looking to work at some of the big banks, you probably would, it would probably influence how your photo was, how the background looked. Brilliant. There's a lot that we've talked about today about, you know, the location, about the cropping, the taking it from different distances, you know, how, you know, what should be in the photo, which direction you should be looking, whether from below or above. Tons of really useful information there. So thank you, Lucy. Oh, you're so welcome.
All Lucy's information is going to be below the video, so you'll be able to connect with Lucy and check out her own LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lucy.
Oh, it's been brilliant, Paula. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.